Good morning. Am I good? You got me? Hello, hello. Testing, testing. There we go. Audibility, it's a fabulous thing. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Amy Zucker Morgenstern. My pronouns are she or they, and you are very welcome here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. We gather our different paths entwined to deepen our spiritual lives, nourishing connection, learning from each other, caring for each other, tending to our world. We gather on unceded, stolen land of the Tamien and Ramaytush people. Seems particularly a good weekend to remember that when Indigenous Peoples Day is tomorrow. We acknowledge these communities in the interest of truth and justice, awareness, and gratitude. They have cared for this land for many, many, many generations and continue to do so. In order to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism, we pledge to join the Tamien and Ramaytush people whenever they ask us for solidarity. So I'd like to point out to you two links in the order of service if it's online, and also if you aren't accessing the online order of service at this moment, on the website description of this service. You can follow links to their two tribal organizations to learn more about how you can support them. Everyone, if you're here in person and you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, stop by the welcome table with the blue tablecloth and chat with Lisa from our membership team, who is somehow managing to be there and at the auction table, possibly at the same time today. She's very, very talented. Anyway, she can take your contact information, answer your questions, all sorts of good things. And if you've been thinking about joining the congregation, she can give you the little card that lets you do that today too. Online, there's folks to connect you and lots of links in the order of service for more information about things going on at the church, including all that good stuff if you want to leave your contact information for the future. Everyone, I hope you'll be able to stay for second Sunday lunch, which we pick up in the fireside room there. If you're just visiting us for the first or second time, please just go on in. It's on us. If you've come, consider you a veteran and help keep the lunch going. And then we can patio and enjoy each other's company and the sunlight today. And now, let us begin our service. Friday was National Day, and all of October is LGBTQIA History Month. And so we light our chalice, what Linda Lee Franson calls the pride flame, with her words. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace. For those who have fought for their rights, that they may celebrate. For those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame. With our centering words each week, we draw on one of the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are from contemporary U.S. American actor and LGBTQIA advocate Laverne Cox. It is never easy to be different. And society has a way of punishing those who don't fit in. But I have a message for those who are struggling. Embrace your uniqueness, for it is what makes you extraordinary. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, we allow ourselves to arrive here fully. If there are any people here who are young or young at heart, I need your help in acting out a story. Anybody who can come up here and help me do that? I'm looking at you. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just put you on the spot? Well, I'll start, because I have just arrived in this village here, and I am hungry. And I'm hoping that some of these people will be able to give me some food. Anybody got any food? I'm very, very hungry. Say no, say no. No one in this village has anything for me? I'm hungry. Margot's hungry. Eloise and Stasha are hungry. This little kitty cat is hungry. No? Oh well, you know what? Travel with my soup pot and my spoon. And you know what we're gonna have? Never mind these stingy villagers. We're gonna make some stone soup. I have a stone with me. It's a really good one. Looks juicy, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's put that in there. Okay, can you get some water and put that in there for me? Thank you. And would you light the fire? Thanks. And Doyle, maybe you could stir, because it's starting to boil here, and I want to make sure my stone doesn't burn. Oh, doesn't it smell good? We're going to have some good soup here. Yeah. I mean, it's a little thin with just a stone and water, but It's starting to smell pretty good. We're going to have some good soup, don't you think? Got anything? You got anything? Oh, somebody in this village has a potato. Potatoes make such...
Indigenous Peoples Day, since they gave us the potato, I'm following my conscience and putting it second.
Oh, this elderly townsperson is putting in 2 potatoes. That, stone soup is fabulous just as it is, but with a couple potatoes, it's going to be extra, extra good. Do you want to start?
It's not very good.
An onion. Onions really add a certain something. Thank you. She says it's not very good, but what is a soup without some onion or garlic, yeah? What do you think? Anybody else want to stir this? You want to be the stirrer? We can't let that burn. Yeah, all right. So we've got the stone is sure cooking up nicely. Gonna be delicious. Kale. I'll give what you can manage, sir. Do you need to keep some of your kale there? Okay. Thank you to that nice gentleman. He's added the bigger part of his kale to our soup. I actually ate kale, but it's very, very good for us. And oh, here comes another villager. What have you got there? Oh, a little thyme, a little sage. You're right. This, a stone is so good, but a little bit of herbs is always a good thing here too. Thank you for helping us stir. Oh, I think our soup is almost done, and isn't it smelling marvelous? A bunch of carrots. Would you run and get some carrots from that nice gentleman? That'll be great, won't it? Oh, we have a excellent stone soup now. And you know what else? I think we almost have enough, and it's almost all cooked for us to all have some here. Anything? Tofu! Would you run and get the tofu from that nice town? We needed some protein. There's just, stones are just delicious and have lots of minerals, but not so good on the protein. Yum! That is the finishing touch. And you know what? I think we have enough soup for everybody here, thanks to these generous, generous townspeople who've made this wonderful stone soup. Thank you. Thank you for all the help. Now, today we have childcare, and for the little ones, we have preschool and kindergarten. We don't have all our classes for the big kids because of the long weekend, and I know a lot of our kids are away. So you are welcome to go to childcare or to stay in the service as always if you go on out as we get to the end of our song. Thanks for helping me with the soup, stingily or not. That's right. We would not have the potatoes if it weren't for the I believe. So let us sing together. Lean on Me. And if you are going to children's religious education, you'll want to wait till we get to the last. When we sing, we're singing Call Me several times. That's your cue. Please rise in body or spirit and we'll sing. It is in the hymnal, but the hymnal puts the words, the bridge and everything in a different order, so follow out what's up here and it'll be the way you know it from Bill Withers.
Lean on me when you're not strong.
Speaking of which, this is the time in our service when we share the important events of our lives that we want this community. Blessed be. Once in a while, every several weeks, we take time to do what Jewish friends and family may be doing this week, and just consider what our values are, how we have striven in the past year to live up to the people that we want to be, and to honestly assess ways that we've fallen short. Not to punish ourselves, just so we can do better. And so we take a little time right now to recommit ourselves to what's most important to us, to consider how it has been, how we have acted, what we would like to do differently in order to realize the joy of the kind of life that we dream of, when we dream of being as kind, as patient, as good a friend, as present a listener as we can be. So let's take a moment right now to each in our hearts recommit to what's most important to us. In our striving, we have the help of companions, all of these good people on the path and others, and our shared values to guide us, as you'll see on the screen. So let's share these together. I'll begin. There's a part that's leader and a part that's... Whenever you manage to jump in there, Tim, I've got the words here. Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritage of freedom, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. May our commitment to these values fill our lives with love. And let us join in singing. I know we've sung this once, but maybe not a lot of time. So we're going to sing in the English, Cuando el Pobre, and just the last verse we're going to sing, one of the Spanish verses. I've underlined in the online order of service and on the slides where you do the elisions. That's the difficult part of the Spanish for many people, because it's a little different than we tend to do in English. So please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing together. Our reading today is an expansion of just a bit of what we read together from the Unitarian Universalist Association Bylaws. Sounds exciting, but this is Article 2, where we have our principles and covenant, including our shared values. Those who have been counting letters in our little mnemonic, JETPIG, may notice that we are on number 6. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Oh, thank you, thank you. when I was telling people how to behave before we got to the grudging giving part of the story. We had our carrots and our tofu and our kale and onions and whatnot. I kept saying, the people have to be stingy. Don't give us anything. Stingy, stingy. But, I think what was really going on, although no version of stone soup I've ever heard really gets into the heads of the people in the village, I think probably they thought they didn't have anything to give. I mean, they looked around their pantries, they could see they weren't empty, but they didn't think they had enough to spare. But when they began to give, their riches grew. And if we had all day, I would have given everybody a vegetable or chunk of tofu or whatever, so that we could enact the story in its full glory of everybody contributing until there's a huge cauldron of soup for everybody. I wanted to tell that story today, not only because our theme is generosity, but because the stone soup phenomenon is real. It's actually been scientifically studied and found to be a metaphor for something solidly true. Science supports the hypothesis that when we give, we feel better. We end up feeling better than we did before. Even if we think of giving as a privation, that's not actually how it plays out. Giving causes a surge of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, so notable that it has been dubbed the giving glow. It literally strengthens our hearts to give. Our blood pressure improves. And over years of this behavior, we have a healthier circulatory system. Elderly folks who volunteer in their communities live longer than their compatriots who don't. 3 researchers at Harvard Business School and the University of British Columbia studied the effects of spending money on oneself compared to spending money on other people. While retail therapy is said to cheer us up, what they found and reported in Science magazine was that money we spend on ourselves doesn't actually increase our happiness. Using the same money for others, whether a gift for a friend or a contribution to a charity, measurably does. The lead researcher, Dr. Elizabeth Dunn, says, one of the best parts about being human is that we have evolved to find joy in helping others. And when you think about it, I mean, once you get past the, sort of simplistic survival of the fittest fight of nature red in tooth and claw that we know is not the whole story, evolutionarily this all makes sense. As a health reporter named Markham Hyde summarizes it, put simply, humans have thrived because we can come together to form large interdependent groups of unrelated members. And there is strength in numbers. If helping other people didn't feel good, it's arguable that we would never have been able to form the tribes and later the societies that are the building blocks of prosperous civilizations. So giving is clearly, it's wired into us to make us feel good, to make us healthier and happier in the long term. But I don't want to go on too long in this vein because the catch is also that why we give matters. The more focused that we are on others rather than on getting any benefit for ourselves, the more it benefits us. Go figure. We have so many dreams. We perceive so many needs, other people's needs. They are clearly so much bigger than our resources that we can just give up. I mean, the people in the village, they're kind of the butt of this story. But who among us has not said, it's just too much, I can't help everybody. I'm just going to hold on to what I've got here. I mean, we give some, of course we do. We have some tremendously generous people I'm looking at right here. But how often do we really allow ourselves to be bold in our generosity? The research has been done, the evidence is in. When we give, we feel more generous, and both the giving and the generosity improve our lives. And it can be contagious. That's really important because one of our fears, one of the things that makes us hold tightly to what we have, is that we'll give and others won't. They'll be takers and we'll be givers, which means we'll lose out. And that doesn't feel so good in the long run after all. Well, a Stanford and Harvard research team tried this contagion question using an organization. One of the organizations they used in their research was one that we know well here, Life Moves, then called Envision. They told a group of research subjects about Life Moves and the work they do, which is trying to provide a transition to permanent housing for people who are homeless. They gave the research subjects a little bonus, just a small one, on top of the compensation they were receiving as subjects, which they told them they could give to Life Moves if they wanted to. And then the researchers read them several little stories about homelessness. Some subjects were told that other people who heard these stories they were hearing, responded with great empathy. While others were told that the response to the little vignettes they were hearing was indifference. None of this was true. Researchers lie. There was no association between the vignettes a person heard and the response others had had. It was completely random. But this is what they discovered. Those who thought others had responded with empathy reported feeling more empathy themselves, and it turned into generosity. They gave 2.5 times as much to the homelessness organization, Life Moves, as those who thought others were indifferent to the stories that they'd heard. Maybe that's what happened to the people of the village when they first saw others not contributing and then others contributing to the stone soup. And that reminds me of an even more ancient story. This is the only one of the miracles of Jesus that is described by all 4 gospel writers. The story, you may know, of the loaves and the fishes. Jesus and his disciples are in, it's variously described, but a big empty place with a lot of people, and they and all these people are hungry. And the disciples look and discover all they seem to have among all of them is 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. Well, there's 5,000 people out there as well as the 13 of them. That's not gonna feed all these hungry people who have gathered to hear Jesus. And the story goes in all 4 versions that Jesus and the disciples began giving out the bread and the fish, and there was enough for all 5,000 people and 12 bushel baskets of bread left over. Way more than enough. I've heard a lovely interpretation of this story from various quarters, which is that Jesus did not work a miracle over these loaves and these fishes and turn them into enough for a huge crowd. In this interpretation, what he did was evoke the generosity of the people. Their fear and their sense of scarcity made them selfish, made them a little stingy. I don't have enough. This crowd is too big. If the disciples find out I've got some food, they're going to want me to contribute to the whole picnic. And look at this, there's all these people. This crowd is so big, its needs are so many. What can I possibly do that will make a significant difference? So I'd better just hold on tightly to what I've got. But like the stranger who comes to town in Stone Soup, Jesus quietly inspired them. At first grudging, just those little bits, and then they pulled out this and that they had been holding back until there was enough for 5,000 people and lots of leftovers besides. I love that interpretation. Some people find it enraging. They think this is a quote, lame substitute for a real miracle. But I think evoking generosity in the human heart is pretty miraculous. And we're seeing some of them right now in these hurricanes and their accompanying tornadoes and floods and power outages, which means, of course, that the people most in need are surrounded by other people who are also in need. Yes, we'll all swing into action with FEMA and blankets and crews from the American Red Cross and all that. But at first, what you've got is just a whole lot of desperate people. And I read a story of a pastor in Dallas, North Carolina, named Cameron Bryson, who received a call at Marion, a town about 1,400 feet up in the Appalachian Mountains, had been cut off from floodwaters and cut off by the floodwaters, and all the roads were just completely washed out, cracked. It was about an hour and a half from Dallas, and I want you to know that Dallas, North Carolina, wasn't doing so well either. It was right in the hurricane zone, but they heard this little town was completely cut off, which they were not. So he got this call on a Saturday night, and Sunday morning he assembled a group of 35 churchgoers and asked around the church and borrowed a pickup from somebody who owned one, and they filled it up with food and water and gas and all the things that you need after a natural disaster, and they started the hour-and-a-half drive up to Marion from Dallas, which of course took them around down trees and watching out for snap power lines, and eventually they came to an impassable road and they had to just carry everything they could from the truck and proceed on foot. I love this story. Bryson says, as the small group approached the first house, they heard a baby crying and a mother and father came to the door. When Pastor Bryson and the others started handing them food for their 5-month-old, they had brought formula, among other things, the mother's eyes welled up. They had just run out of baby formula the night before. Bryson said, we just happened to have exactly what they needed. It was incredible. Anyway, that church has kept on doing that since Helene struck, making several deliveries over these terrible roads and sometimes walking. It's an amazing thing when you discover that you just happen to have exactly what someone else needs. That's what we're committing to when we say one of our shared values is generosity. Taking the risk to make that discovery. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Of course it does, and not just to each other here in this congregation, but to the wider community, the organizations we connect to as justice partners, to the other people in our lives, because this generosity it comes alive in us, and it catches on, and it feels good. And just like chasing dopamine anywhere else, we keep chasing it once we discover, oh, that feels great. And here's what I love. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. Gratitude, coming just a few words after this word generosity, I'm thinking they the framers of this value, this piece of the bylaws, don't mean gratitude for being on the receiving end. They recognize, oh, when we are generous, when we give our kale, or most of it, and our onion, and realize, okay, I've got something to give, then we discover we're in this network that makes us feel marvelous. We get that giving glow, and we get those connections that only a community of mutual care can experience. That's what we feel grateful for, which in turn feeds generosity, because there's no remedy for an attitude of scarcity like gratitude. It just makes you feel like there's just more to go around. More in your pantry, more in your pockets, enough for everybody. And then this also cultivates a spirit of hope. As I said, we look around the world and the needs are so many. I mean, just from one storm in one place. And you multiply that out toward with all the illnesses and all the wars and all the climate worries, and it just seems like, what can we possibly do? What can our contribution actually do? But when we get this ball rolling, when we get the contagion of generosity, when we feel that surge of, oh, I actually made a difference, then the other gift we receive is the gift of hope. So may it be. And this is exactly why, I've said it before, why we have an offering. You know, the offering is not a big part of our budget. Long ago, maybe that's how little congregations survived. They passed the hat, and that was the money that they had to turn the lights on and the heat. We don't need that right now. And, you know, enough for the pastor to get week to week. It's a very small part of our budget. Why do we do it? Because it's a ritual of gratitude and generosity. It's good to practice that and just keep remembering, what does it feel like to give, which can get so abstract in our lives. So, if we are moved by gratitude toward one another, if we feel hope, if we feel that connection of relationships, of interdependence and mutuality, we may choose to support this community with an offering right now. You can use cash or check, or the QR code or text info that's in the order of service. And now the offering will be given and received, and the good feeling will be given and received. Thank you. Let's sing together, We Give Thanks, which is number 1010 in the teal hymnal. The words, as always, are on screen. And in your online order of service, please rise in body or spirit. Sing out loud. I hope you'll be able to stay, whether you're chatting with each other for lunch or whether you're online chatting with the folks who are gathered there on Zoom. Please stick around and get to know one another. And old timers, that means particularly try to greet a newcomer, invite them to sit with you and see if you can find out enough about what brought them here to introduce them to someone else they'll want to meet. Now, if you are online, please unmute yourself, show your video if you're comfortable with that. Maybe touch hands, and we'll do the same here in the main hall, reaching out to hold hands in whatever way we're comfortable and say our benediction together. Go out.